Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to take a look through my collection of vintage Ed McBain and related paperbacks. And there's loads here to see amongst various different publishers, various different pen names, American and British editions. And there's loads to get through and I cannot wait to share it with you. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Ivan Hunter was born Salvatore Albert Lombino on October the 15th, 1926. He was an American author and screenwriter, best known for his 87th Precinct novels written under his Ed McBain pen name and the novel upon which the film Blackboard Jungle was based. Hunter, who legally adopted that name in 1952, also used the pen names John Abbott, Kurt Cannon, Hunt Collins, Ezra Hannon and Richard Marston, amongst others. His 87th Precinct novels have become staples of the police procedural genre. Raised in New York City, Lombino served in the United States Navy during World War II and wrote several short stories while serving aboard a destroyer in the Pacific. However, none of these stories were published until after he had established himself as an author in the 1950s. While looking to start a career as a writer, he took a variety of jobs, including 17 days as a teacher at Bronx Vocational High School in September 1950. This experience would later form the basis for his novel The Blackboard Jungle from 1954, written under the pen name Ivan Hunter, which was adapted into the film Blackboard Jungle in 1955. In 1951, he took a job as an executive editor for the Scott Meredith Literary Agency, working with authors such as Poul Anderson, Arthur C. Clarke, Lester Del Rey, Richard S. Prather, and P.G. Wodehouse. He made his first professional short story sale that same year, a science fiction tale titled Welcome Martians, credited to S.A. Lombino. Soon after his initial sale, Lombino sold stories under the pen names Ivan Hunter and Hunt Collins. The name Ivan Hunter is generally believed to have been derived from two schools he attended, Evander Childs High School and Hunter College, although the author himself would never confirm that. Lombino legally changed his name to Ivan Hunter in May 1952, after an editor told him that a novel he wrote would sell more copies if credited to Ivan Hunter than to S.A. Lombino. Thereafter he used the name Ivan Hunter both personally and professionally. During this era, Hunter also wrote a great deal of genre fiction. He was advised by his agents that publishing too much fiction under the Hunter byline, or publishing any crime fiction as Ivan Hunter, might weaken his literary reputation. Consequently, during the 1950s, Hunter used the pseudonyms Kurt Cannon, Hunt Collins and Richard Marston for much of his crime fiction. A prolific author in several genres, Hunter also published approximately 24 science fiction stories and 4 science fiction stories between 1951 and 1956 under the names S.A. Lombino, Ivan Hunter, Richard Marston, D.A. Adams and Ted Taine. Ed McBain, his best-known pseudonym, was first used with Cop Hater, 1956, the first novel in the 87th Precinct crime series. Hunter revealed that he was McBain in 1958, but continued to use the pseudonym for decades, notably for the 87th Precinct series and the Matthew Hope detective series. From then on, crime novels were generally attributed to McBain and other sorts of fiction to Hunter. Reprints of crime-orientated stories and novels written in the 1950s, previously attributed to other pseudonyms, were later reissued under the McBain byline. As Dean Hudson, up until about 1964, he wrote 20 softcore sleaze novels for nightstand books, although he always distanced himself from these later in his career. Hunter was also successful as a screenwriter for film and television. He wrote the screenplay for the Hitchcock film The Birds in 1963. After having 13 87th Precinct novels published from 1956 to 1960, further 87th Precinct novels appeared at a rate of approximately 1 a year until his death. Additionally, NBC ran a police drama called 87th Precinct during the 1961-1962 season, also based on McBain's work. From 1978 to 1998, McBain published a series about lawyer Matthew Hope, Books in this series appeared every year or two and usually had titles derived from well-known children's stories. He passed away on July the 6th, 2005. Okay then, so we'll start off by looking at these American Ed McBain 87th Precinct novels, starting with the very first one here, Cop Hater. Absolutely superb way to launch the series. This is published by Perma Books. And on the whole, most of my Ed McBain collection, they're all first paperback editions. This one here is from February 1956. So they're mostly first editions, although on my British copies there are some which are reprints because I've not got round to finding the original firsts yet, but I don't want to be without a copy of the book, and even then I'm missing a handful of the very prolific author's output. But anyway, that's the very first one. Then we've got Killer's Choice. These American ones are very tough to find over here, particularly in nice condition, these beautiful painted jackets. And so I'm definitely missing a few of the earlier ones, but they'll turn up eventually. Killer's Payoff there. This is Till Death. And they're all making a little big thing about them being part of the 87th Precinct. They really are beautiful, beautiful covers, these. King's Ransom. The Heckler. Lady, Lady, I Did It. This is interesting. So it's got watch the compelling television series based on Ed McBain's 87th Precinct each week on NBC TV. So the series is definitely riding high at this point in time. Axe. It's got a little bit of wear on the front there. Death of a Nurse. This is a later one now, Till Death. It's a Dell published one. When was this? It says copyright 1959, but this one was published in 1968. This was another one which is even later than that. This is a 70s one, Runaway Black. And in a lot of cases, Ed McBain's work would get repackaged. So a lot of his short stories and things he did for like the digests and magazines would get repackaged later on because he became such a big name, and the appetite for new McBain material was very, very high. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, the rumour is that he wrote about 20 sort of soft-core sleaze novels under the name Dean Hudson, and I've got 4 of them in my collection. I've seen them range in price from about £10 a copy up to as much as £50 or £60. He always sort of, McBain himself, always sort of denied that this was him. But after 1964, it definitely wasn't him. So the way the aficionados have sort of picked up to say that it actually was McBain was because the quality of these is much, much higher than is typical of these sorts of books at the time. There's only one sort of highly detailed sex scene in it, and then around that they're like decent like crime novels, and you can sort of pick up McBain aficionados can pick up his style of writing. Casting Couch. And then Passion Man. So they have their fans. I mean, these are the only ones I've got, and they're part of my sort of nightstand collection. They are very, very scarce indeed, and worth keeping an eye out for that particular name, Dean Hudson. But anything, because they were so successful, but he actually stopped writing them after about the 20th. I think he probably just did it because it was easy money. You could knock these out quite formulaic in just a few days and get paid quite nice money for it. But after about the 20th one, or anything past 1964, although they kept Dean Hudson, the name going, the pseudonym going, they're not actually by McBain / Evan Hunter. So do bear that in mind. Now, I was delighted to see that one of his books was published by Pan, which is Richard Marston's The Spiked Heel. So this is a lovely one-off one. It's got a great cover by Sam Peffer, one of my favourite artists, and my friend Tim actually owns the original artwork to this one, so I'm very, very jealous indeed. But I will pop a picture of the original artwork to that one in the video right now. Now, before we start on the main run, I wanted to also show you another one of his early writings, and this is in Manhunt magazine. So this was a crime digest. This is the first issue of Manhunt, and it went on for quite a long time, this, and this first, although he's not listed on the cover, they made a big deal about the Mickey Spillane story. He is there in the credits there, like Die Hard by Evan Hunter. Now, these Manhunt digests are really, really terrific. I mean, wow, what a magazine this is, and I really, really recommend it. And I can also recommend this, which is the Best of Manhunt. So this is Best of Manhunt and Best of Manhunt 2. And these are like compilations of the very, very best of Manhunt Digest, and both of them contain original Ed McBain stories, of which they are absolutely terrific. I've read all the Ed McBain ones in both volumes, and they're really, really good. It gives you great sort of history about the magazine, the context it was written in, and things like that. And it's just really, really great. These are available very easily from Amazon. They're published by Stark House, a great reprint publisher, and I would recommend you track copies down, particularly if you're interested in some of the very best of the earliest Ed McBain stories. So next we'll look at the Matthew Hope series. So the way to tell these is they still use the Ed McBain name. Often they bring towards the fact that he actually wrote the 87th Precinct, by far his most popular series. But these ones have all got this sort of, the titles are from like fairy tales. So this is like Goldilocks. So it's either a title of a fairy tale or a character. These are in rough order here. Rumpelstiltskin, a published order is written. These are all British editions by Corgi. Beauty and the Beast. Into Sphere now, which is Jack and the Beanstalk. Snow White and Red Rose, Rose Red. Cinderella. Got the little Matthew Hope mystery underneath. House That Jack Built. Puss in Boots. Three Blind Mice. And Mary Mary, quite contrary. So that's his Matthew Hope titles. So here's the first of the British ones, and they were published by Penguin. Now, even though Cop Hater had come out in the States in 1956, Penguin didn't get round to publishing it until 1963. I'm pretty sure it had a UK hardback before then, though, published by, I believe it was TV Boardman, published them. You know, the publisher with like the Basset smoking the pipe, a bit like Sherlock Holmes, the Bloodhound. This is the second one, the Mugger, and you'll notice that they incorporate this 87th Precinct logo in there, and they try and do that on most of these early ones here. Sort of classic Penguin crime from the era. Here's the Pusher, very, very desirable one with the syringe on the front, same as the American one. All of these are cover designed by Alan Spain. He must have been a Penguin in-house designer at the time. Con Man. And although my copies aren't tip-top condition, they're not that difficult to come across. But I think because the books are so eminently readable and rereadable, and they're not generally that long, when you do find copies, they do tend to be quite worn. So if you do see really nice copies of the McBains, it's worth picking them up, because they are uncommon in nice condition. Killer's payoff here. Really nice. Really like the design of these. They would make a really nice set of postcards if they're nice high quality remastered sort of editions, as it were. Lady Killer. And as we go through these British ones, this is in the order that the books should be read and were published. So I'm a real stickler for reading a series as they were published. So we do jump around a little bit because they weren't all published in order. Killer's Wedge, some books didn't come out until much later after their American counterparts, so we'll just read them in order. We'll look at them in order anyway. Till Death, King's Ransom, still using the 87th Precinct banner here. Give the Boys a Great Big Hand. So the banner's gone. This is the last time we see it. And the 87th Precinct logo is just along the top of that finger there. And a complete departure. Doesn't say 87th Precinct anywhere for this copy of the Heckler, but on the back it does mention 87th and Steve Carella there. Where are we on this one? This is like still mid-60s, I believe. 1966, yeah. It says first published in 1962 by TV Boardman. So it does acknowledge the original hardback. Then, for a little while, the titles moved over to New English Library, which was, this is the very tail end of Foursquare, who did publish a bit of crime. And they just did a handful of the books, and this is August 68. This is Lady, I Did. So this is the next one in the 87th Precinct series, but obviously this is a much, much later edition. So I'm not sure if this is one that, yeah, it says this is the first edition of this one in the UK, but didn't get published until 1980, even though this was, came out about 10 years prior to that. Then we got The Empty Hours, which is, as it says there, 3 new 87th Precinct stories. So McBain would publish 87th Precinct stories all over the place, and they had some were in magazines and some were like short stories and novellas, and they would all eventually get rounded up and reprinted. Back to Penguin again now, Like Love. Only mention of 87th Precinct in the front there, nothing on the back. Unless you're familiar with the characters. It does mention Steve Carella on the back. You wouldn't know, would you? 10+1. Great one there with a little sniper on the roof. Once again, a bit of a departure. Penguin were going through a little overhaul themselves at this time with their artistic design, and had a bit of an identity crisis. Then Axe, back to mentioning 87th Precinct on the front now, which is was missing, wasn't it, from the last couple, and on the back. So interesting. Now a slightly earlier pan, He Who Hesitates. These early 70s pans, I'm struggling to find nice condition copies in first edition. This one, you can see it's got the new pan sticker on the front. 1970. And these particular early ones from about 70 to 72 are all quite scarce. To Penguin again now, Doll. So you'd have to be all over the place to read them all, but it doesn't bother me. I love vintage paperbacks, as you know, so it doesn't bother me which publisher publishes them. This is 80 Million Eyes. Again, this is a much later one, seemingly out of position, yeah. So this is one which did get published by Pam around that early period, but I haven't got the original one. So this is my sort of fill-in copy, so at least I can read the book until I find the right one. Here is Fuzz, early 70s pan. Bit of a warm one, but as I said, they're tough to find. And in fact, even this is a second print in 1971. So it will do for now. Shotgun. Jigsaw, slightly later pan now. I believe this one was once used, yeah, 1972. The plot of this one was once used in an episode of Columbo. They sort of adapted it slightly. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Another nice early pan. 73 for this one. Let's hear it for the deaf man. Now I've got 2 copies of this one. This one's been misprinted. You see it's missing the gold, which should have been overlaid across it for Sadie when she died. Just a little variation there, bit of fun. I don't usually collect misprints, but that was quite, it's so distinctive, isn't it, with and without it, that I didn't want to leave that one behind, as it were. So Sadie when she died. Hail to the chief. And they're really distinctive, these, and the biggest problem with these is faded spines. So the spines were printed in orange or red, and they're so easy to fade. So look out for those if you're trying to put a really nice high-grade run together. It's not easy with Ed McBain. It really isn't. Bread. So what you're seeing today, in fact, is probably 3 years worth of me really trying to track these down. This is a first from 76, and I've bought loads, countless job lots over the years online to try and get a run of firsts, and at least all the ones that I'm missing, I've pretty much got them in at least some form in a reprint, bar some of the tail end ones. So I'm not missing a lot, but even this is not them all, believe it or not. Blood Relatives, that's the first. He's a tough author to collect, although mega prolific, as you can see. Right, so that's about halfway through the 87th Precinct UK editions. So we're going to pause there, and I'm going to show another little aspect of McBain's output. Okay then, so we'll have a look at a few books which aren't part of like main series. They're like standalone books. Now this is a lovely one here, Second Ending. This is published by Corgi, who did publish the Blackboard Jungle, but I haven't got that one, sadly. But this in itself is quite a collectible book. You can see why. It's obviously got the drug. It's a drug-related book. Fantastic painted cover there. And this is a really nice copy of it as well. I'm not sure if it's the first or not. Yeah, Corgi edition 1957. Quite a scarce little offering, that one from Ivan Hunter, and I believe goes for, you know, reasonably good money, that one. Next we got this, which is Even the Wicked, a Penguin one here, later sort of 70s one. And what happened was McBain was riding high, and they just wanted to publish anything that hadn't been pulled together before. So this Penguin is published 79, copyrighted Richard Marston 1958. So it's just it's from that sort of late 50s period when stuff was being published all over the place. And as I said, as he got popular, absolutely everything was pulled together. A Big Man, it's another one, very similar again. Similar story. Here's a late 60s one for the Centuries. I Will Start World War III. Awful jacket. Really don't like that one at all. There we are. Not one of my favourites. This is unusual. This is Mayflower, publisher Ivan Hunter, and it's Happy New Year, Herbie, which I believe is like a comedy. But I've never read it, so I don't know for sure, but there it is. Here's from that period of Foursquare, New English Library. This is just general crime stories, Crime Squad, so I imagine, although I'm only guessing here, that these have possibly come from Manhunt magazine. Let's have a little look. Film strip by Richard S. Prather. Hard sell. They're not all by Ed McBain in actual fact. Look, there are a variety of authors, but he has the first story, which was Chinese Puzzle, which they're touting as an original. Oh, there we are. So, Crime Squad. But in actual fact, it is just that one story at the start. It's a bit naughty of them, wasn't it? So, Where There's Smoke. Let's see if we can see where this one's come from. First published in 1975. No, I think it's just as a standalone. Doors. That published in hardcover under the pseudonym Ezra Hannum. So it's just been republished now under the Ed McBain name. guns. The McBain Brief. I believe this is a compilation. Yeah, 20 stories from the man who created the 87th Precinct. This is like a short story. And he was so good at his short stories are really something. 1983, this one. Another part of the city. Ah, yeah, this is the one which is not the 87th Precinct, it's the 5th Precinct. So it's a different sort of, a different precinct within his, in his world. Downtown. This is Mandarin non-fiction. So it says it's non-fiction, but I know he did write a little bit of non-fiction, but it doesn't appear to be based on anything, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Then we've got another one in that New English Library, The Fear Merchants, where once again McBain has a story, but he's not the main thing. So Downpour by Ed McBain first appeared in Ed McBain's Mystery Magazine, copyright 1958. So once again, it's just dredging up the past there. There we are. And repackaging it. So those are a few books which are related, certainly, but they're not part of the 87th Precinct series per se. But we will have a look at the last few novels in that series right now. Okay, so long time no see. Back to the 87th Precinct now. This is the second, but it was first published in 1979 by Pam. Calypso. Very much of their time, aren't they, these? Now, if you are interested in doing like a read-along, there's a fantastic podcast which has just come to a close called Hark. And then on the Hark podcast, they do read every single 87th Precinct novel in order and then discuss it, and it comes highly, highly recommended. I don't know if they plan to continue doing some of his non-87th Precinct books. I don't think so, but I've not listened to the latest episodes because I read the book and then I listen to the episode accompanying it, so I've got quite a way to go yet, but I think that was a great way of doing it. And they released an episode about once a month, so there's a great archive for you to go back and look at. Ice, big thick one. This for the 18, when almost 300 pages, very, very long compared to the earlier novels. Lightning. And they do have a very distinct style, don't they, with the gold banner, which lasted for a long time. 8 Black Horses. And the last one in this sort of format was Poison. When was this? This was 1987. The last one to have that sort of cover style. Still Pan though, but we've moved over to Tricks. Yep, so this was the one for the following year, and they've just decided to sort of change the look a little bit, which lots of publishers do. Ladies, the women of the 87th Precinct. And I do regret never having the chance to meet McBain. He did come to the UK quite a bit, and he did signings and stuff. So you do see signed copies around quite a bit online, but I never got the chance to meet him. Lullaby. I know my friend Gary Levisi over in the States has got a first printing of Pater, the American first printing, signed by him, which is a really, really nice item. Vespers. Widows. Now, the 87th Precinct, it really still does deserve a decent TV series. Now, I was delighted to read that Stanley Tucci and Steve Buscema currently own the rights between them to the 87th Precinct, and they are trying to get it brought back as a brand new TV show. So hopefully that's something that will happen. I believe it's at the making the pilot stage at the moment. Kiss. So 2 great names tied to the series, so that would be fantastic if they could bring them back. Ladies 2, which is a follow-up to the earlier one, the other women of the 87th Precinct. Romance. These later ones are a little bit tougher to find in nice condition. The Big Bad City. Nice cover, this one. Very, very nice. Back to being New English Library. This was 1999 in paperback. Very, very nice. That one. Very much like that jacket. Big Bad City. Then we got this one, which is Money. Money, Money. Nothing to do with ABBA. But done up like a big $100 bill there. And the very last one is this, Fiddlers. That was the last one, I believe. Amazing. What a career. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed looking through my collection of vintage Ed McBain related paperbacks. There certainly was some fantastic stuff to see today. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it that thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage paperback coverage. And I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.